All my dear students. So today we will be discussing organization culture, and before discussing the organization culture, let us discuss the learning objectives for this session. Explain how to characterize an organization's culture, distinguish between different types of cultures, identify the ways employees learn culture, describe the process of cultural change in an organization. And as you can see in the picture, that organization culture comprises of leadership, people, standards and policies, compensation and environment, etc. So we will be discussing at length about all these things. First of all, let us understand what is organizational culture. Organizational culture is a system of shared assumptions, values and beliefs which govern how people behave in an organization. Organizational culture includes an organization's expectations, experiences, philosophy, and values that hold it together and is expressed in its self-image, inner workings, interactions with the outside world, and future expectations. So, organization culture, which is commonly also known as corporate culture, it includes the ways the organization conducts its business, treats its employees, customers, and the wider community. The extent to which freedom is allowed in decision making, developing new ideas and personal expression, how power and information flow through its hierarchy, how committed employees are towards collective objectives. There are some definitions of organization culture, so we'll discuss few popular definitions. According to Bruce Perron, organizational culture defines a jointly shared description of an organization from within. According to Richard Perrin, organizational culture is the sum of values and rituals that serve as a glue to integrate the organization's members. What drives an organizational culture? So these are founders' values, industry and business environment, national culture, organization's vision and strategy, and behavior of leaders. So these are some of the drivers which drive the organizational culture. So here we will be discussing how after drivers the flow of an organization culture moves. So first of all, drivers of organization culture are there, and on the basis of those drivers, organizational culture is formed. That organizational culture moves towards organizational structure and internal processes. And in organization structures, that organization flows down to groups and social processes. And then the culture manifests in work attitudes and behaviors of its employees at all levels. And finally, it leads to overall performance. So that performance, whether it is effective or ineffective, the organization culture has a major role to play in that. So by this, now you must be understanding that the flow of organization culture is always from top to bottom. What are the characteristics of organization culture? These are innovation, which means risk orientation. So definitely there would be dimensions, and the culture would be formed on the basis of on which dimension these characteristics are. So innovation is risk orientation, attention to detail means precision orientation, emphasis on outcome means achievement orientation, emphasis on people mean fairness orientation, teamwork is collaboration orientation, aggressiveness is competitive orientation, and stability is rule orientation. So on the basis of these characteristics, organization culture resides at levels of organization, and at level 1 is observable artifact, which means physical manifestation of culture. Level 2 is espoused values, which is explicitly stated values and norms of an organization, to which at times we also call as principles of a particular organization. Level 3 is basic assumptions, which means core values of the organization, that in every strategy and every planning and organizing function and in the entire organization structure, these core values of the culture are reflected. There are different types of organizational culture. The first one is clan culture. So the clan culture has internal focus. It emphasizes flexibility over stability. It emphasizes again collaboration among employees. The second type of culture is adhocracy culture, which has external focus, which values flexibility, and it is adaptable, creative, and quick to respond to changes in the marketplace. Then the third one is market culture. It focuses on the external environment. It values stability and control. It is driven by competition and a strong desire to deliver results. And in today's times, we can see Uber as one of the dominant example of market culture. The fourth one is hierarchy culture. It has an internal focus. It values stability and control over flexibility. It is formalized, structured work environment, and the example in today's times is Amazon. So this is the competing value framework of all the four types of cultures, and we can see that there are different orientations on the x and y axis and dimensions. So the one is flexibility and discretion, and on the other dimension is stability and control. Then on the y it is internal focus and integration, and the other dimension is external focus and differentiation. So if we talk about the clan type of organization culture, the thrust here is to collaborate. The means of achieving this type of culture are cohesion, participation, communication, and empowerment, and the end result is morale, people development, and commitment. The adhocracy culture has flexibility and discretion on x-axis and external focus and differentiation on y-axis, which gives thrust on create. Means are adaptability, creativity, and agility. Ends are innovation, growth, cutting edge output. Then there is market culture, which on y dimension has external focus and differentiation, and x-axis has stability and control. The thrust area here is to compete. The means to achieve this culture are customer focus, productivity, enhancing competitiveness, and the end result is market share, profitability, goal achievement. Then there is hierarchy culture, which has internal focus and integration on y dimension and stability and control on x axis. So the thrust here is to control. The means are through capable process, consistency, and process control measurement. The end result of this culture is efficiency, timeliness, and smooth functioning. So now which is the right culture? So employees have more positive work attitudes when working in organizations with clan culture is there. Clan and market cultures are more likely to deliver higher customer satisfaction and market share. Then operational outcomes, quality, and innovation are more strongly related to clan, adhocracy, and market cultures than to hierarchical ones. An organization's financial performance is not strongly related to organizational culture. Companies with market cultures tend to have more positive organizational outcomes. How employees learn culture? So there are certain artifacts, that is symbols, which are the object, or it can be an act, a quality, or event that conveys meaning to others. Then there might be stories like narratives based on true events, repeated and sometimes embellished upon to emphasize a particular value. Then there might be organizational heroes, person whose accomplishments embody the values of the organization. There may be different rites and rituals like activities and ceremonies that celebrate important occasions and accomplishments. Then organizational socialization, which is the process by which people learn the values, norms, and required behaviors of an organization. So because organizational socialization is a very important artifact, so we will be discussing in detail about it. Organizational socialization is how people learn about and adjust to the knowledge, skills, attitudes, expectations and behaviors needed for a new or changing role within an organization. It refers to the process of making new employees get acquainted to the new environment of the organization. This reduces the anxiety of new hires and allows them to adjust with other existing employees in the company. Socialization can be conceptualized as a process made up of 3 stages. So, what are these 3 stages of socialization? These are the pre-arrival stage, which consists of anything a potential organization member has learned about the organization before joining. So, the aspiring candidate who is looking forward to join the organization gathers information through website or other web resources or other study materials. That is considered under pre-arrival stage. The second one is the encounter stage. Once a candidate accepts a job offer, they enter the encounter stage. This stage is where the new employee's expectations meet the reality of the job. Socialization methods are used to orient the new employees to the existing culture. And the third stage is metamorphosis. Finally, the new member must work out any problems discovered during the encounter stage, and this may mean going through the changes. So, in encounter stage, the employee comes into the organization and gets acquainted with the organizational culture. So, in metamorphosis, what happens is that the new employee must be having one's own values and beliefs and a system so that has to be aligned with the organizational values and beliefs. So that process requires a kind of change which the employee has to adapt to, and this is considered under metamorphosis. The more management relies on socialization programs that are formal, collective, fixed, serial, and emphasize divestiture, the greater the likelihood that newcomers' differences and perspectives will be striped away and replaced by standardized and predictable behaviors. So, first of all, the organizations must have socialization processes, and that too they need to be formal, collective, fixed, and should be in a series so that it can be firmly established in the new employee's mindset. So, this is the socialization process in an organization. As we have already discussed that there are 3 stages: pre-arrival, encounter, and metamorphosis. Once these phases are complete, then there are certain outcomes. It may be increased productivity, increased satisfaction, higher commitment, and lower turnover. So, then there are ways to change organization culture, because in the further sessions we would be discussing about organization change, and there are certain forces that require organizational change, and there are certain elements where the change is conducted, or it may be organization wide. So, when the organization change is initiated, the organization culture also need to be changed accordingly. So, how that organization culture changes, that is first of all through the formal statements of that organization. And what are those? Vision, mission, and values. So, the change, that cultural change will always be initiated through vision and mission statements. Then it should reflect in the language, slogans, sayings, and acronyms used in the organization. Then the rites and rituals, the celebrations and ceremonies happening in the organization need to be aligned with that. Then stories, legends, and myths. At times the narratives have to be developed according to the change in vision and mission statement. Role modeling, training, and coaching. So the culture is something which flows from top to bottom, and the lowest level in the organization is desired to follow the organization culture, but that change need to be communicated. The employees need to be trained and educated about it so that they can align themselves with that changing culture. It can be through physical design, it can be with rewards, titles, promotions, and bonuses. So again, the company can devise the certain policy, short-term policies that to establish the changing culture quickly. Then establishing goals and performance criteria according to the changing vision and mission and strategic processes. It can be through measurable and controllable activities. It can be by changing organizational structure, and it can be through using organization systems and procedures. Now, what are the qualities of a great organization culture? So definitely we have discussed in that in the flow of organization culture, that overall performance is the final outcome. Now, that overall performance is whether effective or ineffective depends on the type of organization culture that particular organization has. So, what kind of cultural traits or characteristics great organizational cultures have? So, these are alignment to company objectives first of all, and a culture of appreciation. So, these organizations who are highly successful and which are highly on the checklist of the employees to become a part of it, have this culture of appreciation, how small whether the accomplishment may be. So all of us know that we love to be appreciated, but then organizations at times really tend to forget that this appreciation is required in all the equations of the organization. Then a culture of trust has to be developed, whether it is between peers, whether it is between superior and subordinate, whether it is between management and employees. That element of trust need to be established. Performance focused should be the organization culture, and as we have discussed that there can be different ways to strengthen that culture. Then resilience, it should encompass teamwork. So when the teams are recognized and they are rewarded, that emphasize teamwork culture. Integrity and transparency should always be there, so everyone knows why so and so is thing happening and what is my role. And at the end, what is most important is psychological safety. So the employees, whether he or she is at any level in the organization, somewhere at the back of the mind requires that stability and security in the job. So an organization should by all means provide that psychological safety and security to the employees. Now, how to build an organization culture? So we have discussed the ways to change organization culture. So whether it may be a new organization building a culture, or an organization in the change phase is rebuilding the organization culture. So the first step under this process is define your strategy. Even before the organizations are able to align the culture with the strategy, they should clearly define what that strategy is. So plan of action has to be, that blueprint has to be very, very clear at the beginning itself, and then rest of the process should be initiated. Second step is understand your current organizational culture. It is important to get an impartial understanding of how your organizational culture is at present, because we are rebuilding, we are changing. So first of all, we must know as an organization that what is the current organization culture and what are the gaps. So this input for different areas of the organization should be sought out before establishing an overall view of the situation. Then third step is identify areas of improvement. Once the strategy is clearly defined, that why are we building or rebuilding the organization culture, have an overview of the current organizational culture and identify the gaps where improvements could be made. Then the fourth step is create an action plan. So once the big picture is put together, now the organization is ready to create an action plan. And in most cases, the organization may have too many gaps to address at one time, and that is where they need to start with the most beneficial ones for the organization, means to prioritize which actions to take first. The next step is monitor the progress. In order to ensure consistent monitoring, create culture squads. So this means create task groups of people with driving and monitoring change, who can monitor whether this culture building is moving in the right direction. And last is re-evaluate regularly. Consider evaluating and re-evaluating your organizational culture on a regular basis in order to make sure that you are continuously moving in the right direction. This also helps to understand if the actions taken are having the desired impact on organizational culture, or if different actions could have more impact. So now we will be discussing 8 steps to building a high performing organizational culture. So every organization looks for to be a high performing organization. So in that process, the step 1 is excel in recognition. So we have already discussed that appreciate. So whatever the employees are doing, the recognition for that is to be made. Step 2 is enable employee voices. So the company people or the management or the higher level authorities must listen to their juniors, to their peers, to their subordinates. So they may have certain ideas to value add for them, or maybe the problem area where they can really point out, because they are the ones who are directly involved in the processes. Then step 3 is make your leaders culture advocates. So culture advocates does not mean that they should be continuously speaking about the cultural values, but rather they should be the role models manifesting and demonstrating the cultural values in their actions and behavior. Then step 4 is live by your company values. So in the smallest of the action, in smallest of our transactions, we should never forget the company values. So that has to be widely disseminated, regularly reinforced so that it can take place. Then step 5 is forge connections between team members. So there are people who enjoy doing work single-handedly, but we have discussed that strong or great organization cultures always encourage team spirit. So this connections have to be developed between the team members so that the sense of belongingness to the team must be there, and which will eventually lead to the sense of belongingness towards the organization. Step 6 is focus on learning and development. So organizations must regularly take initiative for the new learnings and development of their employees wherever the opportunity lies. Step 7 is keep culture in mind from day one, and step 8 is personalize the employee experience. So when the organizations develop narratives, so it is not just about that the management people or higher level leaders, their stories must be discussed. It can be a very ordinary employee, but their experiences may be personalized and they must be developed as narratives so that it can encourage and inspire everybody else, and to that employee also, that every single employee feels the worth of being in that organization. So these are the 8 steps to building a high performing organizational culture. So this is all in this session, and thank you so much. Any questions on this organization cultures, maybe we will discuss in the